You're listening to From Fear to Love. I'm your host, Alma Lee. So I am working on a seminar. It's a workshop that I intend to basically market to the masses. It's a sojourn of my own experiences with my own healing, my own evolution, and my purpose. I choose to share these elements of what I have gone through in my life because I feel called to do so. I feel that all of us experience life on our terms. We get to choose on how we move through this life. We sometimes feel like we don't have a choice, which is a major part of the message, the underpinnings of my workshop that I am creating, is to develop and encourage and provide support for people who feel disempowered, who feel out of control of their lives, who feel that they are moving through their existence because of some sort of social or cultural construct, maybe family, that has placed sort of a yoke upon them. There are decisions that we can all make. There are choices and changes that we can all make in our lives in order to regain our autonomy. The problem with that a problem that a lot of people that I work with, and myself included, that we come into terms with, that we face, is the fear of those changes, the fear of what comes next. If we decide and choose to move outside of that implied safety that is provided to us, whether through our cultural or social or familial ties, that support, when we make different choices that are counter to what is expected of us, that support tends to go away, right? So there's fear there. There's fear in wondering if we're being illogical. There's fear in wondering if the choices that we make will benefit us somehow, greater than choosing the support that is placed in our lives by cultural and societal and familial reasons. And you know, that person, maybe it's you. Maybe I'm talking directly to you. Maybe you are that person who has existed in sort of a humdrum place where you feel that you don't have any choices, that you can't regain control and your autonomy. And I'm a very fortunate person to live in a country where I can go and get a job without having to have a husband. I can exist in my space alone as a single woman and provide safety for myself without having to connect with a man in order to do so. I'm very grateful for that. And you know, having traveled the world, I've been to countries where that's not the case for women. There are places in this world that women do not have the autonomy. They don't have choices. They don't have the ability to hold power over their own finances, that they must be bound in marriage or through family to men. So let me just put that part out there. So I'm talking to people who have the ability socially. They are in a social construct which provides them with the ability to choose. It provides them with the ability to move forward in life on their terms. I'm talking to those people. I can't control what your culture, what your country of origin and your laws are that maybe prevent you from doing so. But I'm talking to the people who have the legal recourse. They have the legal ability to step outside of whatever construct you feel is inhibiting your evolution. And I want you to understand something here. It is incredibly important. It's critical for you to achieve your highest purpose. Now, you can do that possibly staying right where you are. I don't know what your situation is. I don't know. Are you in a situation with someone, a family member, a spouse, a circle of friends that encourage and support you? If that's the case, then you're already one up on the game. You're already halfway there to achieving your greatness, to achieving your purpose, to achieving and regaining your power. My understanding, my interpretation for the purpose of this existence, of this life, is to connect and inspire and help others. I really, truly believe that. And I think that all of us have a different role in achieving the same thing, essentially. I believe that my role is, I've always been a loudmouth. I've always been one to express myself fully. I've always been one to share my opinions, whether they're welcomed or not. And because that has always been sort of my forte, my strength, I lean into that. I lean into the fact that I am needed. My voice is needed, especially by people who don't feel like they have one of their own. A lot of times we tend to lean into people and personalities where we find a desire to achieve something for ourselves because we observe that element in someone else. So I believe wholly that my role here in this life is to encourage other people to do better, to achieve their greatness, and in that achievement, to help their fellow man. It's cyclical, right? I help you, you help someone else, that person comes around, helps my family helps me. It's all a cycle. We are all part of a collective consciousness. I firmly believe that. I believe that you and I are one and the same. We are a part of something greater than ourselves. And I believe that the pressures, the difficulties, and the adversities that we exist in here on earth, in this plane, in this existence, are intended to shape us, to shape our spirit into evolving into the highest version of who we are. I don't think that we can do that outside of this existence, because in the spirit realm, when we're not in this physical capacity, we don't have stress, we don't have adversity, we are not inoculated by the slings and arrows of judgments and difficult situations. We don't get to experience that in the spirit realm. And as such, we don't change. You know, I've said it before, and I'll say it again, change, or comfort, rather. Comfort is the enemy to change and growth. Being comfortable will not encourage you to grow. When you're comfortable, there's no instigation. There's no encouragement. There's no pressure for you to move out of that. So that's why we're here. That is why we have adversity. That is why we suffer loss. That is why we grieve. That is why we exist in a space of pain over and over and over again, because it is something that is intrinsically a part of our spiritual growth in order for us to evolve and change into the highest version of who we are. And the way that you get out of that pain is to grow. So you have to pay attention to the signs around you. I feel that we are here to provide that purpose. We are here to actualize our purpose by containing and understanding what our strengths are. Me being a loudmouth, me having a voice, me being opinionated, me having an idea about the way that the world moves and works. That is me. That's what I do. That's my strength. It's easy. It doesn't feel like work. It fills my cup, so to speak, spiritually speaking. It is something that I wake up in the morning and I feel motivated to do and share with other people. Do I think I'm perfect? Hell no. If I was perfect, I wouldn't be dealing with the adversities that I already exist in. It wouldn't happen for me. I would be comfortable. And as such, I wouldn't have the motivation to change or to work or to do this work. So I want to share with you today the message that if you are in a space where you are feeling adversity, you are feeling tired, where you are feeling that life is just nothing but a constant struggle, I want you to just pause, take a moment. If you can suspend your disbelief for just a moment and look at the adversity of which you face and ask yourself this question: if I weren't so scared about the outcome, what would I change? What would you change today in your life to move away from the adversity that you're currently facing? What is it? If you can remove the fear, what is it that you're afraid of? Are you afraid of losing your partnership? Are you afraid of losing your job? Are you afraid of losing your abundance, your health? Are you just afraid in general? Is that sort of a mainstay of where you exist? And if that's the case, why? Why? Why do you live in a place of fear all the time? Who told you that you were supposed to be afraid always? Who told you that in order for you to be okay, that you have to feel the way you feel every morning? If you're already afraid, why not take a chance? Why not step outside of the fear you're currently living in and step into a new brand of fear? Aren't you tired of being afraid all the time? Do you have any idea what it feels like to be in your power? Do you know what it feels like to actualize your purpose? Do you know what it feels like to understand that the things that you used to lean into, the things that made you feel safe, don't exist at all? What can you change today to elevate, to lift yourself up out of your current condition? When we have attachments, that creates an immeasurable amount of grief and suffering. Now, a connection with something or someone is not intrinsically a bad thing at all. It's not. We are part of a collective consciousness, and as such, it's like a jigsaw piece. We are part of a larger puzzle. But keeping that in mind, when we are separate from the larger group, we feel that sense of loss. We feel that disconnect, and we will go through the fires of hell in order to reconnect at all costs. And that's where a lot of these attachments come from. And we try to fill that void with all kinds of things. People, experiences, drugs, gambling, shopping, sex, you name it. As human beings, if we're not paying attention to what we're supposed to be functioning in, the real thing, the genuine thing, then anything will fill it. So I ask you again, what is it that you're doing now that you can change, that you can lean into and fulfill yourself? What's the worst that can happen? You change who you are, and because you change who you are, you have to enforce boundaries because you're not moving the same way you used to move. And then as a result of that, the people that are in your life don't like the new you. And then because they don't like the new you, they start treating you differently, or they start projecting their wounds upon you. So then you feel like you've got more of a burden to carry. Not only your own stuff, but now other people are heaping their negative projections upon you. And that's something that in your mind you feel is insurmountable and you can't deal with. So you might as well just live in the status quo and allow yourself to continually be manipulated and used in a codependent way for other people's betterment. People that you perceive to love and people that you perceive to love you back. What's the harm in evolving? What's the harm in enforcing boundaries? What's the harm in stepping outside of those codependent features and relationships and stepping into your own power and being accountable to yourself for the first time ever in your life? If you're already afraid, what's the difference in changing the flavor of the fear? Taking a risk and taking a chance on yourself in a way that you never embarked upon ever before. And potentially screwing up along the way and making mistakes. That's fine. That's part of being a human being. Moving away from certain people and moving into new relationships only to find that the new relationships are just as toxic as the last ones, or maybe even more toxic. But you're moving and you're learning and you're growing and you're evolving and you're not staying static. And you're gaining wisdom from these departures, from these experiences. and it's growing you. You're evolving into who you're supposed to be because of these experiences. They're scary, they're new. You feel alone, you feel isolated, you feel unprotected because your perception of safety is not really safety at all. It's a facade, it's something that you've grown into, that you've sort of deluded yourself and you've picked it up from your childhood because you never really were pressured to do anything different. When we take our power back, there's a huge responsibility with that. And that is the responsibility of taking care of yourself first. And that can be an extremely terrifying, daunting task for somebody who has always existed in a mindset of external validation, to find your self-worth in the eyes of other people. But when you find your worth within yourself, then your power starts to flow. You start to evolve. You start to grow as the spirit you are. Through these experiences, through these challenges, through these fears, through the loss and the lack of the connection of the people who make you feel the safest. It's scary. It's scary, but when you take ownership and responsibility for who you are and stand on your own 2 feet and make decisions that are in alignment with your authentic values, that's when you really start to live. And that's when you open up the opportunities for your finding your purpose and elevating into that and giving back to the collective consciousness in a healthy way, in a way that genuinely welcomes your jigsaw piece back into the puzzle authentically. It allows your spiritual growth. And when you realize that fear that you feel, that you've always felt, goes away with it. It goes away when you reconnect. It goes away when you find your true calling. When you push past the fear. When you find your courage. Courage is not the absence of fear. It's just moving forward in spite of it. So what can you change today? What can you do differently today to find your purpose? All right. From Fear to Love. This has been an LBM production. Please like, subscribe, and share this show. Thanks for listening.